everyone dies. But we still think, it'll never happen. And losing a parent is hard, but that isn't really going to happen in my situation. I'll be fine. I'm an adult. I do this in my professional life, and I do a great job. It doesn't have to impact me personally. My mother was diagnosed with cancer a few months ago. While figuring out her treatment options, she had a heart attack and several mini strokes, and now she's too weak for chemo. There is no treatment option, and she doesn't have long to live. Today, I'm going to share 5 things that you can do to make it through times like this without completely falling apart. How do I know? Because I'm doing them. So let's do it. My father died 6 years ago, the day before I gave birth to my son, Lincoln. It wasn't real. I didn't have any bandwidth to deal with it at the time, and I didn't really process the loss of the man who I loved more than any other man in the world for about a year, at least a year. Fast forward to this year, when my mother's care team accidentally found out that she has cancer. During the several months of test after test and imaging and blood work and so on to figure out where exactly was it and how far is it spread and what are the treatment options, she suffers a heart attack and mini strokes. Even though they've figured out the treatment option, chemotherapy, she's not strong enough to actually use it at this point. She quit doing PT because it was painful, it was making her anxious, and it wasn't really working. They're managing her pain as best they can, but she's mostly confused, constipated, and miserable. She has 6 months left to live, or less, and she's in the hospice program. I'm going to talk about the 5 things I'm doing to cope with her process and to not feel like I'm dying at the same time. Number 1, do what you can to connect with and feel good about your parent. I live half of a country away, and I don't really connect very well through phone calls, even though I do them. So I decided to go back by myself, even though we have a family trip planned in another month, but to go back by myself to have time with my mom. 11 hours and over $1,000 later, and there I am, sitting in a hospital with my mother. She's shocked that I showed up, but shocked in a good, delighted, happy kind of way. I spent a weekend with her, just hanging out, sometimes watching her sleep, sometimes fetching the aids so she wouldn't fall down as she shuffled her way to the bathroom, sometimes eating strawberries and watching inane TV, sometimes rubbing lotion on her aching leg where the cancer is spread, sometimes trying to cut a hangnail that was bugging her for hours. And do you know how hard it is to try to cut your mother's thick hangnail while trying desperately not to clip her skin because she's on so many medications? She might be bleeding for hours if you do. It's not easy. Sometimes we talked about big things, like what she thinks will happen when she dies.
My own mind, I think you just go where it's nice.
Yeah.
I always used to figure that if it's like you're going to stay on earth, you're never going to leave earth, that's your heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And if you die, you're all done with that. You'll be in heaven, so you don't have to worry about anymore.
And sometimes we reminisced about funny things in the past.
Do you remember one of my favorite memories of being in our house? And we would be eating like popsicles and things. And we'd be eating and we'd be sitting on the counter. And of course, as we eat the popsicles drip and fall onto the floor.
Yeah.
Your very clean floor that you just mopped and spent hours and hours mopping.
I've had that.
Yeah. Do you remember what you used to say?
What I said?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You probably said, oh shit, too. But you also said, get that sticky shit off my clean floor.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I always tell people about that. Get that sticky shit off my clean floor. And then you would like immediately drop to the floor with rags and everything else and start
Oh, yeah.
cleaning it off.
No, this was something funny that I do or say whenever anything fell.
Uh-huh.
On Sunday, she didn't want me to leave, and I still had to go. She's still in pain. She's still dying. I didn't change any of that. But I did contribute in a way that felt good to her and good to me. I still have a family trip planned to go see her with all of our kiddos and all of our love, if life lets us have that. And I still call and see if I can be supportive from thousands of miles away. Does it feel adequate? No. Does it feel like something? Yes. And we all have to find our own version of something. So number 2, seeing and acknowledging and feeling the feels. I felt such a range of emotions. It's kind of like the Oregon weather, where one minute it's like bright and sunny and happy and you think it's going to be the best day ever, and the next minute it's pouring rain, but that's my face. But under the tears, there is such a range of emotion. Yes, I'm absolutely sad, but there's also dread and anger and frustration and despair, sometimes a little disgust. Sometimes I just need to cry, and sometimes I need to say things out loud. It's a way that I process by talking about them. These are things that probably nobody wants to hear. Probably I don't even really want to say, but they feel really important to help me process. The other day, I just had to talk about how it all seems so unfair. How it seems so unfair that most of us never get what we want at the end of our lives. Even if we have the resources that would make us think that we are going to get what we want, even the littlest things that we want at the end of our lives. And how that's so sad and so stupid and so sucky and so against all of the things that I think about how the world should work. And how I can't do a damn thing about it. And here comes the helplessness and the loss of control and all these other feelings that I don't want to have, but still do. The biggest thing that I've found thus far is that when I'm thinking something or I'm feeling something, it's really helpful to get it out. If you have a counselor, great, use that person. But if not, say it to someone else, anyone. Write it down, videotape it, go for a walk and talk out loud, even if you're walking by yourself. Write a poem. I love haiku. Expressing it in some way allows the emotion to transform within yourself and ultimately move through you differently. So number 3, find support in a way that actually works for you. Some people have a therapist. Other people talk to their partner. Some people express their emotions in their lives online anonymously to people they will never meet. It can feel like you don't want to be a downer or a burden to other people, or somehow you've said too much. You get to navigate what feels healthy for you. I've found that picking 1 or 2 people to really bare my soul and tell deep down feelings and things that I don't want to say to many people, that's really helped. And telling a little bit to several other people has also really been nice for me. It comes out at easy times, like when I say where I was last weekend, in a hospital with my dying mother. The immediate kindness of people around me pretty much transports me right back to step number 2, hanging out with my feelings again. So I have to in some ways be careful, because when people are so kind and it brings up those feelings, I'm not always ready for them. So sometimes I don't share if I don't want to feel more, because it brings that up for me. But the process of telling people almost always brings me back to the same place. That on average, in general, People are really kind. And that's a place that I need to go back to, and a thing that I want to be aware of over and over again, because it helps. So for number 4, we've all heard of the take care of yourself part. But it's really not that easy, especially when half the time you don't even know what you really need, and whatever you do doesn't seem to really help anyway. In my experience, it really comes down to being more kind to yourself. This became apparent to me when I started making really stupid mistakes or feeling like I just couldn't function like I normally do in daily life. I have a YouTube channel. I make a video virtually every week. And I said, you need to make a video. And I was immobilized. I couldn't think of a topic. I couldn't think of the process that I've used to make about 80 videos at this point. I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't even motivate myself to start. Boy, you suck, was basically my feeling to myself. I felt really anxious and really guilty and really overwhelmed by almost everything. So when I finally admitted I just can't do it this week, or that I potentially shouldn't do it this week, I immediately felt a tiny bit better. Like maybe 5% less stressed. Oh, kindness. I asked a video specialist, I had scheduled this a while ago, to meet with me and help me understand how to do better videos when I'm out of the office and how to tell better stories. I was really excited for the meeting. Well, after the weekend with my mother, she emailed me, this videographer, and said, oh, hey, when should we talk about it this week? Totally missed her email. 2 days later, she's so kind, and she says, oh, no problem. Where should we meet? And do you have some kind of outline or thing that you want to talk about? And I couldn't think of a place to meet. I could not think through options of where we might meet and go through pros and cons and actually pick one. I couldn't think of any kind of topic that I wanted to talk about. I can't decide what theme to explore. I just feel overwhelmed by all of it. Once I explain that my mother's dying, and she so kindly offers to reschedule, and I think, I can't reschedule, I'd be wasting her time. I suck. But once I realized that I'm already wasting her time, and I'm wasting my time, and this isn't the experience that's good for any of us by being so immobilized by emotion, that I could accept her offer gratefully. I felt lighter and maybe another 5% better. And that's what it feels to be kind to yourself. On Friday, I had a medical appointment scheduled, and I convinced myself that it was at 2 o'clock when it was actually at 1. So at 1, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to drive the half hour to get there very leisurely, take my time, don't be stressed. And I look at my phone to get the details of where I'm going and realized, oh no, you were supposed to be there in about 3 minutes. I don't flake on appointments. I don't disappoint people. I feel like my world is caving in on me. And I call the scheduling person for this doctor and I apologize, and she sounds kind of irritated with me. And I reach out to the provider and apologize again. And I think to myself, okay, you're okay, you can do this. Just go home, sit on the back deck and do some work. You'll be fine. And I go home and realize I can't sit anywhere and do work. And I crawl into bed and pull up the covers and cry a little bit more. This is what it can look like to be kind to myself. So that brings me to the last point number 5, which is celebrating the little things in your actual life. As I go through day by day, thinking about my mom, and being sad for her and being sad for me, and life just marches on. I feel a little better when I'm out in nature, so I go for runs or for walks. Part of what I do is I go for a jog, because being outside and breathing and hearing birds and seeing green and getting a little rain down is pretty good for me. Sometimes I stop and pay attention to the little things. Sometimes during my run, I find little delightful creatures and I stop and take videos of them because they make me happy. And right now, I need things that make me happy. And I know there's a lovely stream up here, which I really enjoy. And some beautiful calla lilies on the other side. And Lincoln usually looks in this little stream and says he sees a fish. It's orange and very small and never seems to move. And sometimes I walk and I cry. And sometimes when I'm walking, it starts to rain. And I say cheesy things like, nature's tears. And I think about whether or not I want to add my own to them. I also try to revel in the little things in my family's life. Like Scarlett at her second ever ukulele performance, where this time she not only played the lead ukulele, but she sang.
Scarlett has a voice. She's been hiding it. And now she's ready to unleash the beast. Scarlett, you ready? All right.
So the bottom line is, coping with the death of someone that you love, whether it's your mother or your father or someone else who's very important to you, is a difficult process. It's a really personal journey. There is no right or wrong way to do it. Take things one day at a time, be as gentle and kind to yourself as you can, and let people know when you're not okay. You don't have to be alone with it all. Thank you for sharing this with me. And let me know in the comments if you've experienced anything like this, if any of this resonated with you, and if there's other ideas that you use to cope or feel a little better, or just kind of hang on to vestiges of a normal life. I'd love to hear them. Thanks so much.